There may be no greater contrast on Efokar than the open and sprawling fields of rural Kenyer to the vibrant art and crowded streets of its capital. Ambassador Hytrol Half-Moon of Ashuna, 2932 AC. Centered in the Gabona plain with rich soil and navigable rivers, Kenyer is one of the great bedbaskets of Efokar. This wealth meant that many of the families here prospered under Nendrian rule and rose to positions of power not normally achieved for those from conquered lands. While Nendria conquered most of the Gabona plain, some of the northern territory was never officially part of the empire. Most, however, would eventually become vassal states to seek the empire's protection from Pericles. The collapse of the empire meant that nearly every landowner in the Gabona plain began calling themselves by whatever titles they thought they could get away with. Over time, these families would consolidate themselves, primarily through marriage, until they became large enough to be city-states or small countries. Many of these borders were non-contiguous due to the nature of how they combined. This also made it easy to break up territories for dowries or because of disputes. Eventually, every noble family could show how they were related to one another and issue claims on others' territories. In 2353 AC, Balog Zofia was elected as the Kenyer emperor and ruled over most of the current territory, with less than one-third of the families of the Gabona plain not pledging loyalty to the throne. The House of Zofia has remained the most powerful in Kenyer, with only brief interruptions as the elected emperor. Throughout history, as well as before its founding, Kenyer has been a crossroads of empires. The open countryside has made it one of the more invadable territories, but its great agricultural wealth has pushed its population out of its own borders just as frequently. While they have never been particularly successful in their conquests, others have never been able to hold captured Kenyer territory very long either. This has led to great regional diversity in their cultures within the Kenyer. There are elven influences in the east, Gnomish in the north, Pericles to the northwest, Costa Rochosa in the west, and eastern Costa Rochosa in the south. In the center of the country is what the ruling elite would call pure Kenyer culture, even though there is hardly any such thing. These regional differences have led to several internal tensions and conflicts over the centuries. The families of Kenyer have also extended their family trees into Terra de los Justos, as it is the closest human-dominated land. While the House of Zofia has sat on both thrones, it has historically been the Kenyer branch that is considered the head of the family, as it has been the wealthier. This has changed in the last 100 years, with the Justos venturing out to establish colonies and bringing back great amounts of wealth. Uncomfortable with its newly diminished role, the Kenyer branch has tried to assert more control over Kenyer. This has meant the suppression of other cultures in an attempt to build Jadabus into a major port and reduce its reliance on overland trade. Ironically, the increased influence of Justos, along with a desire to assert more control, they have encouraged monotheist Vitnist, along with the suppression of border cultures, has resulted in more of a change from the traditional Kenyer culture, which up until recently has been more fluid and adaptable. Still not the official religion of the land, the monotheist Vitnists will most likely become so before too long. The current emperor, Boros Zofia, who was elected at a young age with the influence of the Justos. Shortly after the election, the preparations began for an invasion of Pericles. The failure of that campaign drove the emperor to take a harder line than his predecessors to reassert control. As a result of this, there has been reallocation from the once vibrant art scenes to focus more on the glory of the state. Kenyer has the largest population of shifters outside of Paracoal, and other cultures bordering it have certainly left their influence in those areas, but the overall population is human, with the shifters doing their best to pass for human or remain hidden.